With everything happening around the crypto market, specifically regulatory discussions, moves, and even bills being passed, I do think now is probably the best time to be focused on the big key narratives in this market. Obviously, tokenization is the big thing, okay? Tokenization is up 7.43% in the last 30 days. Total RWAs on chain, 25, almost 26 billion. Total asset holders up 56+% at 314,000. And of course, with this, we do have stablecoin value also rising. This is a market that is going to just continue to grow more and more and more. What's crazy about this is we've been hearing from very prominent names that this value on chain can surge by 4,000x. That's coming from Bitwise's CIO. And when we think about that, that number doesn't seem too crazy if you look at the value that we would have if we did do a 4,000x from here. Just for reference, right? Smokedog put out a great post regarding the total addressable market size of tokenization. We have real estate, 337 trillion, digital bonds, 314 trillion, investment funds, 155 trillion, public equity, 123 trillion. All of this has been documented for quite some time, okay? The craziest part about this is that we talked about tokenization back in 2021. The World Economic Forum said $867 trillion was the total addressable market even back then. Today, these values have grown significantly. For an example, these values that we're going off of here, this was back in 2023. That was the addressable market size. In 2 years, these numbers have grown tremendously, and they only continue to grow more and more and more, which tells us that the total addressable market for tokenization just continues to rise. If we did a 4,000x from here, we would be at about roughly $102 trillion, or like around 120 trillion. And if we're thinking about that, okay, I want you guys to realize that we're barely scratching the surface, and that number is not even a full-on market that's being listed here. And we also have down here the tokenized RWAs, okay, are encapsulated within utility tokens like XRP. Here we actually have, I agree that it improves transparency and enhanced market access means the demonstration of certain asset classes as it improves accessibility, but I think there's another benefit that has been missed here, and that's ownership transfer. Tokenization offers the capability to digitize physical rights or benefits, which then can be encapsulated within utility tokens. These utility tokens can be integrated into a portfolio alongside security tokens, broadening the range of products available. With this approach, management extends beyond merely tracking the performance of the investment vehicle. By leveraging tokenization, it becomes possible to include tangible benefits or physical rights within the portfolio, thereby enhancing management capabilities beyond traditional investment metrics. Then also over here, we have XRP as a functional utility token. A functional utility cryptocurrency is distinguished by its ability to address real-world efficiencies through blockchain technology rather than solely serving as a speculative asset or store of value. And then also down there, they do talk about the speculative assets like even Bitcoin and Dogecoin. And yeah, listen, when we think about utility-based projects, they become the key driver of tokenization itself, okay? Even right now, if we look at the networks here, number one is Ethereum, which, we already know why, right? But over time, I do think that will change. But if we look at this list, there's a lot of great utility-based projects here. XRP's on here, Algo, XLM. HBAR is not being tracked right now, but I would assume that HBAR is pretty high up on that chart. XDC as well. So, there's some great projects that are starting to get tokenization value added to them. And this is at a time where it's just starting, right? There's only about $14 billion or close to $14 billion on these networks. It's just starting. We also heard from Vlad Tenev saying that tokenization solves liquidity, calls it the biggest capital markets innovation in a decade. Check this out.
Customers in the past have been denied the dividends, but we've actually managed to figure out how to give customers exposure to that. So we want to give all the benefits of the crypto technology and of holding the underlying assets with as few compromises as possible. And I think Robinhood is rarely sort of like the first mover in various spaces. We tend to have an approach where we like to make sure others sort of like do it first. And I think in this particular case, we think it's so important that retail has exposure to these companies and these assets that we saw an opportunity to give a robust offering.
And I mean, you mentioned launching this in the U.S. as well. Is there a specific regulatory change that you need in order to get this done?
Well, for tokenization in the US, we do believe that the SEC has the authority to make it happen without legislation, which is interesting. And you probably saw last week, Chairman Atkins of the SEC gave an interview about tokenization. He called it a great innovation. And we agree with that. We think tokenization is perhaps the biggest innovation to come into capital markets in the past decade. So I think the US shouldn't be far behind. I think the opportunity is too large to ignore, not just for retail, but also institutional.
And yeah, I mean, listen, this is way too big to ignore, especially if you are a retail investor. There is so much money that we will make over the coming years just by simply holding these utility-based projects, in my opinion, especially as the market opens more and more to institutional players, the big banks, asset management companies, governments, you name it. And it all happens with regulatory discussions and moves and the bills getting passed. I talked about this in a video recently, right? History was made because of those bills passing. And that is true because those bills open up the market for trillions of dollars to flow into it. This is just the beginning of a much larger boom. And also, when we think about the XRP ledger, right now we have about $120 million tied to RWAs. This has been fluctuating quite a bit. Recently, we did have about 130 plus million, but currently there's 10 RWA assets on the XRP ledger, and we can see that all right here. Now, we have been witnessing some pretty big moves happening around the XRPL with tokenization initiatives. The first one that we recently just witnessed was the tokenization of real estate through Control Alt, which we'll talk about in this video. But I do think that we are about to witness a surge in RWA value on the XRP ledger, and that's because of the MPTs. The multi-purpose tokens unlock new flexibility on the XRP ledger, but they need structure to be used across the ecosystem. We're proposing a recommended metadata standard to make MPTs easier to discover, rank, and integrate. Now, if we actually look at this thread, it starts with this one. MPTs offer flexibility, but they lack structured fields like a currency code. Instead, they rely on a free-form metadata field, which makes them harder to identify or display in UIs. Our proposed metadata standard includes fields like ticker, name, icon, description, and more. This makes MPTs searchable by ticker, rankable alongside IOUs, usable in Explorers, DEXs, UIs, wallets, easier to parse. It bridges the gap between flexibility and usability. Adoption is optional but encouraged. And remember that this is a new standard. This MPT standard is huge. We've heard from many players like Jazzy Cooper, for an example, from Ripple, talking about how MPTs actually enable institutional adoption of tokenized assets that are on chain because you have data unlocked behind these MPTs, because it gives you all of that data that we just talked about in terms of the ticker, the name, the icon, the description, and so much more. This is a game changer. And it's at a time where we continue to see Ripple push more institutional grade adoption and partnerships with players like, for example, Control Alt. We have in partnership with Control Alt and Dubai Land Department, Ripple Custody will deliver scalable and structured storage for the Dubai Land Department's tokenized real estate title deeds, which have been issued on the XRP ledger, enabling fractional ownership, transparency, and global access to Dubai's real estate market. This is an add-on to that original announcement, which, by the way, we already have money tied to Control Alt on the XRP ledger. We actually have 4 properties here that are tokenized, one being 408,000, 653,000, 818,000, and then 1 million plus. This is great to see. Now, we also had Monica Long talk a little bit about this. She said, as trillions of dollars of assets, bonds, stocks, real estate, the list goes on, become tokenized around the world, you cannot overstate the importance of bank-grade custody and security underpinning these assets. Proud to have Ripple Custody safeguarding the Dubai Land Department's real estate title deeds tokenized on the XRP ledger. No elementary task. Yeah, this is awesome. Because again, it provides us that insight that we are going to see increased adoption of all of these things in terms of tokenized assets. And it's trillions of dollars that will flood on chain. We have over here the official announcement. Obviously, they do break down a few things here, but I want to just go over some of the details. Number one, we have the Dubai Land Department's real estate tokenization project is a perfect example of the type of forward-thinking, innovative initiative that is positioning Dubai at the heart of the global digital asset industry. This is the first time a government real estate and registration authority in the Middle East has tokenized property title deeds on a public blockchain. That the DLD has chosen the XRP ledger for this is really exciting and reinforces the XRP ledger's credentials as the blockchain of choice for serious financial use cases. We're delighted that Control Alt has chosen our institutional grade digital asset custody technology to support the delivery of this project. Control Alt recently secured its VASP license from Vera, becoming the first VASP authorized to conduct issuer-related services. This regulatory milestone formally connects token issuance with custody of real-world assets, enabling a compliant tokenization process from asset issuance to secure custody, on-chain settlement, and lifecycle management. As the designated tokenization provider for the DLD project, Control Alt brings deep expertise in financial engineering and digital asset infrastructure, so it makes sense for us to partner with Ripple to use their custody technology to support this initiative. Partnering with Ripple allows us to leverage proven and trusted technology that meets the highest security and operational standards. We're excited to work with them and bring Dubai real estate investment opportunities to a wider audience. And this is seriously just the start of real estate tokenization. I am so excited about this. And the fact that the XRP ledger is starting to gain traction around tokenized RWAs is really, I would say, a confirmation of there being a lot more partnerships yet to hit the XRP ledger around tokenized RWAs. And we'll probably see the value of these RWAs on the XRP ledger as well grow significantly. I'm very excited for the long-term future here because, again, it's very easy to get caught up in the short-term pushes around this market, especially with price action. But when we think about how much value is out there that could be tokenized, I mean, it is so massive. We are right now witnessing drops of water in the bucket. And even right now, it's exciting to see. But think about when we are at $250 billion of total RWAs on chain. That's a 10x from here. Okay. Or what about 2.5 trillion? That's a 100x from here. Or 25 trillion. That is a 1000x from here. So what I'm telling you guys is these networks are just going to continue to see increased adoption. We're going to see more money flowing on chain than ever before. Ripple told us this. They actually told us this back in April. By 2033, a 0.6 trillion to $18.9 trillion shift is coming as tokenization reshapes global finance. This is all because regulation and institutional adoption, RWAs like bonds and real estate, which we now have both on the XRP ledger, faster interoperable financial infrastructure as well. This is enabling the biggest boom around finance in a very long time. Everything is changing. Everything is moving on chain. If you are not focused on this, you are missing a very big target that will change everything and make the early holders extremely wealthy, because we are only going to continue to see these values grow more and more. And by the way, we also just witnessed a huge move with Archax in Aberdeen, actually. Graham Rodford actually recently just put out a post talking about how he's proud to collaborate with Lloyd's Banking Group and Aberdeen on pioneering the use of tokenized money market funds and gilts to meet FX settlement obligations via Archax Exchange using Nest, our on-chain collateral transfer network. This is what real-world utility of digital assets look like. FX is just the beginning. From tokenized securities to smart collateral, the future is being built now. Now, a lot of people said, does this connect to the XRP ledger? Graham Rodford actually did respond to that question, and he said, yes, the XRP ledger is fully supported by all of our funds, assets, and is Nest compatible. Any parties that agreed to tokenized RWAs can use Nest with the XRP ledger to transfer. It's the same even with Hedera or even Algorand. I mean, guys, these players like Archax are enabling the future in a huge way, and you need to really focus on what's happening here because we are witnessing one of the largest evolutions of finance that we know of, and it only continues to accelerate more and more and more. And we even have over here, Archax Exchange continues to push the boundaries of RWA tokenization. The XRP ledger today can be used to transfer tokenized money market funds and gilts UK government bonds as collateral for FX settlement. And the FX market is a $7.5 trillion per day market. In the UK, it's about 5.4 trillion. So again, huge moves are being made. They're being inked. And again, XRP and the XRPL and what Ripple is doing here is tremendous. It really is tremendous. This is a huge move around real estate. I mean, the real estate market just continues to boom globally. I think it's actually now at like 600 plus trillion. So again, these markets are only up from here in terms of the values tied to them. And that means a very, very big deal for us that are focused on tokenized RWAs, because it means a total addressable market that just continues to grow year over year over year. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.